Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Loan Officer Podcast. I am here with Jimmy Hobson. Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the show.
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Right on. Just a quick background for all of our listeners now. This is an incredible episode because Jimmy has only been in the mortgage business for 6.5 years, which, in the mortgage business, that's for many of us just getting started. And yet has already risen to number 134, I believe, on the Scotsman's Guide list of top loan officers in the nation, and has built a team of 60 people, which is an incredible accomplishment. So, Jimmy, I'm really looking forward to getting into you sharing what you've got for us today.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Very quickly, with you rising so quickly in the mortgage business, I think it would be useful to know your background. Where did you come from? How did you get started in the business?
Wow. Okay. That's a good story. So my background is in the car business. I'm a big believer that if you can sell cars, you can sell anything, because we every single day we'll get the shit kicked out of us by people because no one trusts a car salesman, right? So that was, in 1998, I started selling cars a month before my oldest child was born, who will be 25 here in a month.
Wow.
So basically, it's not 25 years ago today, roughly, that I started selling cars, and went through that. And as we approached 2016 was when I thought about entering the business. At that point, I was in insurance sales, and we had an election coming. If people remember 2016, right? And I'm like, man, I got to hedge my bets because I was doing Medicare, and when Obama was elected, whether good or bad, I don't really care which way people lean politically, but they changed the way healthcare commissions were paid. And I thought, man, if we elect Hillary, same thing is going to happen. So do Medicare. So I hedged my bets. I got a property and casualty license. I started generating leads online for realtors and lenders. I realized 9 out of 10 of them were morons. I could do the job better. So I reached out to a couple of great friends of mine, people that I'm in similar sales groups, and said, what do you think? And the one guy was like, the average yellow in America is 53 years old. At the time I was 42. Well, 43. He's like, why wouldn't you do it? So I got my license in July of 2016. So it'll be 7 years in July, and started rolling forward. Now, mind you, I was still doing insurance, and so I didn't really take off. And then April of 18, I joined the wholesale channel, joined the broker channel, because I worked for a super bloated retail lender, didn't know any better, but I didn't know how brokering worked either. And it skyrocketed. I went from 10 million to 37 to 73 to 100 million, and then even last year, in a down year, I did 60 to 70 and gave about 10 million to the team. So while managing all the people, so it's been good. It is 100% my production without an assistant. Typically I had a processor while I was a broker, but to me, I just always outworked people. And that's really the biggest thing is I understand my stuff very well. I understand my guidelines. If I don't understand it, I'll go read it and figure it out. And so if I ever see the scenario again, I'll have it dialed in. And that's the biggest thing that I learned from that. So.
Absolutely. So you mentioned at the very beginning, you've got a background in lead generation. So you were doing lead generation in the insurance side of things. You went, obviously really big on consumer direct.
Yeah.
Where do you find your best quality leads from?
It's funny because I did that. And back then it was 50 cents a lead, right? Facebook leads, there was money in that, and I could actually make money. And that's where I got my first few deals from, was off Facebook lead gen. We were farming groups on Facebook and running funnels. And I quickly realized that was not the path to get me successful. So in January of 18, I went to a training class by a guy by the name of Steve Green. People may know Steve Green. Listen to this. He's out of Alabama. He taught Facebook marketing and how to hack the algorithm. So I went to that class and I came back and I'm like, man. So I started teaching Facebook classes to realtors.
Nice.
And then I realized that VA was what my passion was, very much a supporter of the military. I live 15 miles south of the largest military installation in Intermountain West. And I'm like, I'm going to attack this. And so I went to military mortgage boot camp, which is now Veteran Mortgage Advisor. For you guys thinking about VA stuff, you've got Veteran Mortgage Advisor and Vetted VA both, which I'm part of both. They're both great organizations to help teach you about VA loans. And then I just took off. So I started teaching classes to realtors. And some of the people that came to my first few classes have been my best partners for 5 and 6 years because they realized I had a passion for it. And I'm a guy that once I do something, I'm going to do it fast and well. And, I'm not going to lie. 5 years ago, I sucked at loans. I mean, I was a baby, I hadn't done that much. And I just jumped in and learned it and swallowed it and used the AEs as my backstop and crushed loans super fast. And I got to be known as the guy that could do loans very fast. And then really I became known as the VA guy, or one of the top VA guys in Utah. So I snowballed. So I get random calls from people that don't send me anything else than their tricky VA stuff, which is fine, because I know once I crush that loan, it's over for the other lender. Because I know if I go head to head with another lender, outside of a handful of people I know, I'm never worried about me losing a deal.
Right.
So
that's amazing. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about the transition from being like general, okay, I'm networking with realtors, I'm just trying to figure this business out, I'm broad, I'm all over the place, to finding that VA niche, and how you really found success going into VA. Because I see a lot of people go down that path and, 90 days later, they're back just in the general market. So how did that work?
So, obviously, I never turned. So a lot of people try to focus on one thing and don't open themselves up. I cut my teeth on FHA, DPA loans. So I already knew the product, right? And so what I did is I really focused after I went to these classes. I started doing more marketing and just putting out, videos about VA loans and myths and things like that. I hired my son to work for me in that same year and does a lot of my video stuff. So I started putting out videos, regardless of how crappy or good they looked. It didn't matter. At the end of the day, it was all about getting stuff dialed in. And so I started doing that, and I started putting it out there, and little by little it snowballed. And I just, people would give me a shot at their ugly VA stuff. And again, I'm not going to lie. Did I know everything? Certainly not. Do I know everything now? Of course I don't. However, I've seen enough VA scenarios to get it done. And I've got a team behind me with where I'm at now that I have some of the best VA originators in the country that literally I can make a phone call and say, hey, I've never seen this exact scenario. What do you think? And they'll be like, well, I haven't either. Let's call our guy to VA. And so it's really been, working hard and doing loans and surrounding myself with people that know more than me. I'm a big believer that if you're the smartest person in the room, that story, you're in the wrong room. Yeah. Now, sometimes, but that's why I lead people, because I have all that experience and I can help people, but I don't think you ever stop learning. And that's always been my mantra. I'm always seeing something new that I've got to attack.
Yep, absolutely. And so, okay, 2 follow-up questions to that. A, with you leaning in on content marketing, video marketing, not worrying about production, just getting it out there, you still produce a fair amount of social media content out there that I get to see. Yeah. What's your strategy for producing that content? Are you just coming up with ideas and then you just shoot it?
Yeah, pretty much. So, so we started creating like memes or GIFs. My son and I, like I've got a couple of images. Like I've got one me standing with like Einstein that looks, the way it's Photoshopped looks really good, or me with Bono, and we do play on words like tied to YouTube stuff. And we just try to be clever and funny.
Yep.
And then here's the thing about video, right? People think production matters. It doesn't matter. Yes, no one gives a shit. You're your own worst critic. And the problem is people get so caught up in the 800 retakes that they never do anything.
Yep.
I don't care. But I've been doing it so long, Chris, and this is the best part, is that literally every day my memories on Facebook, which is my main platform, I have 8 to 10 memories I can literally regurgitate and repost. So it's not like I got to always come up with good content. You're in, 100, 200, 300 people see your stuff, right? You got 4,000 or 5,000 friends. You just keep lighting it up. And then, because I understand the algorithm fairly well, I know how to keep going. But I tell people all the time, it's like life has enough things to put in front of you, but you can always make fun of something, right? Including yourself. Like, I make fun of myself all the time. I think self-deprecation is the easiest way to help people understand who you are, because if you take life too seriously, there's a problem, right?
Yep.
And so I make fun of myself. I don't care. I really don't. And sometimes my kids are embarrassed, but I don't really care. You know what I mean? I really have an attitude at my young age of 49 that I just don't care what anybody thinks. I'm not going to hurt anybody, but I don't care about your opinion of me, because I know exactly who I am every single day.
Yeah. That is amazing. That's incredible and super powerful. Yeah. You mentioned the Facebook algorithm. And I'm wondering how much of that is still relevant. How much of that are you still gamifying? Can you give us like your top 2 tips?
I don't have to do a ton of it. Obviously, use your memories to your advantage. The things that people do wrong. Let's talk about that. So sharing other people's stuff. Don't do that. Repurpose it. here's the thing: is I'm an open book. I don't care what you steal from me, right? Because
Right.
if you think I thought up anything other than a meme with my face on it, I stole it from somewhere else, right? So that's the biggest thing, and I think you've got to find the time frame when your posts work, right? You can't all of a sudden be super political and religious and then shift gears, right? So I live in a fairly religious place in Utah, but I leave religion alone. I mean, I'll make light of religion a little bit sometimes, but I don't overtly attack it. And in politics as well, you can tell I'm very much a patriot. If you can't figure out the way I lean politically based on my posts, there's a problem. But I'm not ever going to attack somebody for that. I'll make fun of it. Like during COVID, I made fun of COVID incessantly because it was a lot of ways overblown, right? It's not taking it seriously, but some people are still ridiculous about it. 2 or 3 years later, not left their house kind of thing. Like, come on, guys. So I will poke fun at things. It's like a good friend of mine used to always say, sacred cows make the best hamburgers, and I believe that. I will poke fun in jest at certain things, but I make fun of myself enough that I can get away with it. Right?
Right.
There's I post that people can't post, but if you literally will, punch yourself in the face every once in a while, people appreciate that.
Yep. Absolutely. That's great advice. Get out of your own way and just have fun with it. That's
well, exactly. That's the thing is it's not all business, right? No one cares about, what Barry said about how the rates are moving. All right. I mean, we care, but most borrowers don't know anything to do with that, right? But if you put it in a way that they understand, it makes sense. Like if you put numbers, dollars and cents together, like FHA comes out and lowers their MI, right? MIP. That makes sense to people. That's a savings. If you can articulate that to money, people understand that. But the problem is people do this high level shit. And I'm like, your 25-year-old kid that just got out of college doesn't know what you're talking about.
That's right.
Make it make sense to people. Make them understand that $14 an hour doesn't buy a $400,000 house, right? Never has it. Even when rates are 2%, it didn't buy a $400,000 house. But the problem is people do this high level stuff, like they're trying to talk to, CPAs and accountants. And like, frankly, most people aren't CPAs and accountants and engineers. Thank goodness. Because they're not the easiest people to deal with. But that's the problem is people get too caught up in their own stuff. Like I've got people that work for me, and like every little thing that gets posted in our internal chat is like, well, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have done that. How about you do what you need to do and not give a shit what everybody else does? Take their advice and maybe tweak your own stuff, but quit getting so caught up in the minutia that you can't do it. And that's the biggest problem in our industry. That's why people are leaving the industry, because they never set themselves up correctly. They never figured out how to market. And now they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I was at AIM Fuse last year and I spoke on one of the top producer panels. And, and my comment was, look, I was like, all I've heard for a year is getting back to the basics. And none of you people have gotten back to the basics. I was like, but the basics are simple. The basics are different than they were 5 years ago. Like you need to do video. You need to be on social, right? But that's the basics. You need to understand your loan programs. You can't just hope that your 3 assistants, when you're closing 5 loans a month, can push your shit to the end. It doesn't work, right? That's right. And that's the problem is, too many people rely on too many people to do their job when they forgot how to do it themselves.
Yep. 100%. That's solid advice. Yeah. And so when you look at the basics now, so you've built a team, 60 strong at this point.
Yeah, pretty close.
You bring people into your team. What are the fundamentals that you're telling them to focus on to ensure they've got the best possible chance of success?
Really, the biggest things we build is I believe social is a big deal. I tell everybody to get on social. I've got 2 videos of the class I used to teach that I share with everybody and say, look, this is how you attack Facebook. I don't care if you're 50 or 20. That's where the money's at. Now, mind you, you can attack TikTok and you can attack Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are all great sources, and I agree with those. But every realtor's on Facebook because they're all trolling for business.
That's right.
So I tell them you need to be active in front of people. You need to like everybody. You need to build your friends list. You need to do that. So that's a big thing. And then I am a stickler about doing your job correctly. Like I'm a believer, and I posted the other day. I was like, no amount of great operations can solve a shitty 1003. And that's the truth is, as I watch people come over, transition to our company, and we're growing on a huge scale, but the biggest bog in operations is LOs that, for half their career have just thrown shit against the wall and hope that it's stuck. I was like, my people know that's not acceptable. Like if
Right.
they have a struggle, I'll get in and help them. I don't care. They need to be better. We need to have that dialed in. If you can't have the front of your house clean, you can't get the, I mean, it's like AUS, garbage in, garbage out, right? I was like, you can make it say whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, you need to do your job correctly. So we have, we do boot camps, we do trainings. The biggest thing is we want to make sure people have full confidence that number one, they can get a loan solved. And if they don't, they can come to us and have them help us. So I've got a couple partners, and we have different skill sets. Like one of them's an operations guy.
Yep.
And a producer. The other guy, our top producer, we brought him in to be our partner because we needed a little younger blood. And then me is I'm the hard charger. I'm the guy that runs as hard as I can to do loans. And so each of us resonate with different people, but that's just the reality of how we operate. We want to take care of people, but make sure that there's someone that will work for them to guide them forward.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so many loan officers get into a situation where they don't have that support. They don't have the marketing support, and then they don't have the funding support on the back end. It's hard to make that work. So I'm very interested in how you approach growing your team. So to recruit that many people in that short order, how do you approach that part of the business?
Well, part of them we inherited from a different branch that just wasn't doing well, so we brought them in. But I mean, the biggest way we recruit is, so I pull people's numbers, and I've got new people, I'm not much of a trainer. I want you to have basic knowledge, and I'll elevate you up. But the biggest thing is we look at culture. Culture is a big deal. Yeah. I'm very much dad. They jokingly call me dad because I'm probably the oldest member of the branch. But we look at everybody. We look at how they're going to fit. We plug them in. I interview them and talk about the things they are doing, right? And where they want to go. And if that aligns, I don't care if they did one loan last 3 months. If that aligns and we can help them elevate, great. If they, now they did 50 million in the last 3 months, but they're an arrogant, smug douchebag, they're not coming to work with me either. I'm not saying the company wouldn't hire them, but I don't have time for that, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I'm not that person, and I'm out producing you. So if I can be humble and learn from other people, and that's really the biggest thing, is my friend, is humility and willing to work. If you're willing to work and you have humility and you actually have a brain to be able to retain mortgage information, anything's possible. I mean, look what I did in 6 years.
Yeah.
So, and I believe it. And I've got a kid that I hired out of Texas that hadn't done a ton. And we brought him over, and he was on his way, but he did 25 million last year in a market. He was brand new and literally moved from Chicago to Texas and is just crushing it because he followed the playbook. He knew that if he did the things he needed to do, which is marketing a ton, and he's doing the things, he knew he would backstop him on loans until he figured it all out. Yep. And sure enough, it's been a recipe for success, because that's, my greatest skill among all other things is I am a technician of loans. I know how to solve loan problems. And so people know that, if there's a possibility to get a loan done, we're going to figure it out. But we're never going to allow it to go out, and we don't throw it against the wall. But we make sure, I'm super conservative, and I think it's a good thing, is I make sure a loan can close if it goes done right.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Because the thing is, $1,000 may not be a lot to some of us, right? But someone's $1,000 earnest money is when they make, 30, 40, 50 grand a year. It's a lot of money, and you got to protect that. People don't get that. But to me, I've been that person. Yep. I remember when I bought my first house, 22 years ago, whatever it was. And I remember having to scrape the paint off the side of the house to get it to pass an FHA appraisal. So, I've been there.
Wow. That's a great story there.
Yeah. But you do what you have to do. You know what I mean? You want to buy a house. Literally, you do what you have to do. And so, I know what that looks like. Unfortunately, I didn't buy in the winter here in Utah, so it was okay. But but I did what I had to do to buy my first house.
Yeah. Amazing. You mentioned a playbook that you give to your team members when they join the team. Yep. What does that look like? Is it a lot of consumer direct focus? Is it realtors? What does that look like?
It's a combination of everything. So we have U Mortgage. We created what's called the Partnership Playbook. It was created early on, and basically it's got a combination of basically daily tasks. Yep. Realtors, direct to consumer, posts on social, just phone calls, everything. Yeah. And that's what we ask people to follow. And it works. the people that have done it. So we've got a gal in our office that, and if anyone's ever interested, reach out to me and I'm happy to connect her because she's done an amazing job. She wasn't sure the direction she wanted to go. And one of the other ladies that works with us back east did this elevate to dominate thing. And she's like, that's amazing. I want to do that. So she created here locally what they call the RE Sisterhood.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So literally every 2 weeks, they meet as a group of ladies. They bring in motivational speakers and they literally have built this out. There's other LOs there. There's realtors and title and other people involved in insurance. And they built it out to help elevate each other. And she's gone from, 1 or 2 loans a month to like 7 in February.
Wow.
Yeah. Just taking the idea and doing that. And so, so she took the partnership playbook early and attacked it and then kind of found her own niche. And the thing that she benefits from, obviously, is she has all the faith in the world in operations. She knows we're behind her. And that's a big deal. If you don't trust your operations, I don't know how you can go get loans done, right?
Yep.
So she knows the operations are going to backstop her. She knows that we support her 1,000%. And so she's run with it. But, that's the thing is we give people the freedom to take the tools and make it their own. And for someone like her, it works great. And, that's not really my wheelhouse of doing things like that. I mean, I built my business differently, but, there's many, like I said, many ways to skin a cat, right? And she's crushing it. And because of that, she's getting haters. People get, people that, run their mouths. And I said, so she's called me. She's like, well, they're saying this, they're saying that, they're saying I'm out of compliance. I'm like, look, you didn't post any trigger terms. You're not out of compliance. I was like, give them the finger, move on. I was like, block them. There's no point you even talking to these people because right. Look at the numbers. I was like, they've got a scarcity mindset where they could literally come to you and say, hey, I want to learn what you're doing. I guarantee she'd help them. No question in my mind. But because they're being shitty to her, and she's sweet as can be. I, however, am not. So I said, if you need to have them call me. I'll handle it. Right.
Wow.
Because I am her biggest supporter in the backstop. That's my job, is to protect my people and make sure that, no one steamrolls.
That is amazing. So, Jimmy, I think that's a perfect segue. And thank you for being so generous with your time. I know how busy you are. People are listening to this and they're interested in more information, learning more about you. How do people reach out? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So you can find me on Facebook, obviously, Jimmy Hobson. There'll be a picture of my wife and I. You can't miss me. My banners, from the flag. I'm a big VA advocate. They can email me, jhobson, HOBSON @ UMortgage. Hence the U behind me. You can see umortgage.com. They can call me, 801-979-6365. I'm an open book. I am where I'm at because people help me. I don't care if you work with me or not, or for me or not. I don't really care. At the end of the day, this is about elevating the people that want to learn and grow. I have some of my great friends, or people throughout the country that, I well connect with brokers that we share best practices all the time. We don't work together. It's a matter of, we're not, even if we're in the same market, my partner now, we were literally competing broker shops 10 miles from each other. Now we're partners. It's funny how that works, right? So I think you have to have the right mindset to take care of people and then you'll be fine. So,
I couldn't agree more. Well, all of that information will be in the show notes. Again, thank you for being so generous with your knowledge here today and joining us. For all of you listening, that was absolutely worth a 5-star review on iTunes. So make sure you head on over there, hit us with a 5-star review. If you're seeing this on social, make sure you hit like, comment, and share. Leave us a comment with what you learned from today's episode, and make sure you tag other people in the mortgage industry, because we are all in this together and rising tides lift all boats. So Jimmy, thanks again for being on the show.
Of course, Chris. Thank you.